91.3 FM, Real College Radio, your only choice for true alternative music. What's up? How you doing? This is Cody. Hope you're having a good time. With me in the studio right now, a very special band all the way from Columbus, Ohio, the one and only 21 Pilots. With me is Josh and Tyler. How you guys doing, man?
Good. Thanks so much for having us.
Now, where exactly, going into the band 21 Pilots, where did the name 21 Pilots come from?
That's a good question. A lot of times we'll run into bands that we'll ask, what does their band name mean? And more times than not, they say it just sounded good, or just Googled well, or the URL was available. All those things. We like to take advantage of every outlet possible and make it mean something. So obviously the band name is a significant thing that you take wherever you're going. It's kind of a long story, but the quick version is I was studying a theater class in college at Ohio State, and one of the plays that we were learning about was called All My Sons. And the real basic version of it, the main character was a father who was supplying airplane parts for the war. And he found out that the parts that he was making in his warehouse were faulty. So he had to come to this kind of crossroads decision thing that he had to make. Do I recall the parts, or do I send the parts out? And what he ends up doing is sending the parts out because he's afraid to taint his name. He's afraid he's not going to make money, all these justifications that he had. And because he sends the parts out, 21 Pilots died. So at the end of the play, he's trying to justify, to his daughter, who found out about his decision, that you have no idea what it's like to have to provide for a family and to uphold a name and a business and all this stuff. And he actually ends up committing suicide at the end of the play. So how do we apply that to what a band and what people, individuals, do with their life? The band name represents a decision that needs to be made. And whether it be as a band or as individuals, we know that, and we're constantly reminded within the band name that, the right decision may be the hard decision. And just to continue to make the right decisions, whether that be, doing what you don't feel like doing, basically, is kind of the underlying theme of the whole thing. And that just requires working hard. Wow. So that's kind of what the band name means in a nutshell. Very
cool. Now, where did you guys go about, how'd you meet and how'd you decide to create the band 21 Pilots?
Josh, why don't you answer that one?
We met in prison, probably 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a thing where, we both were in there for just stupid reasons. Tyler killed someone, and I was loitering too long outside of a local mall. So, right. Both of those are just kind of dumb reasons to go to jail. I'm just kidding.
Honestly, how we truly met was we were actually on a train together, and we didn't know each other. And the train got in a wreck, and everyone died except for us. So we're like, we should probably start a band.
Yeah, we should start a band in honor of us being alive.
Right.
That was the first thing that came to your head, not I should call my family. The first thought was, we should form a band.
Let me find the survivor.
I called his parents, and he called my parents just to let them know what was happening. But first I was just like, hey, I'm here with your son. He's okay, but we're starting a band. So.
Wow, we truly met. All those were jokes. Our parents met at a Dixie Chicks concert, and that's not true either. It's funny that you ask how we meet, because one of the things that we like to do when we travel around playing live shows is we try to make up on the spot the story of how we met. And those are a few of our favorite ones that we've come up with before. Sometimes people get offended because you never know when someone has a family member in prison or died in a train.
Yeah. Or they were the only survivors of a train accident as well.
Yeah, or actually like the Dixie Chicks. So, it's a risk that we're willing to take. That's the answer to that question.
I'll just tell really quick. I'll tell the true story. Is I was good friends with, there was an original drummer of the band, and I was good friends with him, and I met Tyler through him. And Tyler and I became friends really quickly, and after probably a year and a half, things just kind of worked out where the other drummer had things going on and had to leave, and we were able to start playing music together, and it worked out really well.
So how long have you guys been actually playing music?
Individually? I know that Josh hears this a lot because I talk about it a lot, but growing up for me, life was all about sports and basketball in particular. And so when I was, all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school, that's what my life was. It wasn't until the middle of high school that I started kind of dabbling with a piano. And My parents didn't really know what to make of it at first. Thought there was something wrong with me. But then I kept on learning how to play. Ultimately, I made a decision coming out of high school, going into college, that I wanted to pursue music and not basketball. And my parents were very supportive of that. And so now I'm just traveling around, sharing songs with people who don't really know us. And it's one of the most fun things ever. So I haven't been playing very long. Josh probably has been playing longer than I have, though. Josh plays the drums.
Yeah, I'm Josh, and I play the drums. And I've been playing a little over 10 years, I think. In middle school, I started skateboarding and listening to like whatever was on Tony Hawk video games and stuff, so like punk rock music and hip hop and stuff like that. And so then I started, the more I skateboarded, the more I found myself skateboarding to the local music store and teaching myself how to play the drums in there. And I fell in love with it ever since then. And I've been playing every day since I was like 12, turning 13.
Now, your sound incorporates a lot of spoken word stuff, like rap and things like that. When did you decide that using spoken word over, singing was something that you wanted to incorporate into your sound?
Well, I think Josh and I both have a decent amount of hip-hop influence. I mean, it's just, let's be honest, some white kids like to listen to hip-hop, and we're not afraid to say it. And but there's a difference between listening to hip-hop and then actually trying to do a spoken word or rap type of thing. And kind of how that came about was, I had a good friend of mine who really, really slaved over his lyrics, and I was more of a emotion-based writer, which is just kind of like saying whatever you were feeling at the moment and just filling in your melodies. And so I felt like maybe I wasn't putting enough time into my lyrics, so I started writing poetry and making sure that I was honing in what it is I wanted to say as a musician. And so I would have these poems, and then I'd try to fit it to a song, and there's almost always too many words. If you ever look in the inside of a CD and it shows the lyrics, it's a 5-minute song, but then you realize there's only like 7 sentences of lyrics, and it's surprising to see that, wow, there's only that many lyrics in that song. So when you're writing poetry, you like to make it a few paragraphs or whatever it is, and then trying to fit that one thought into one song was very difficult. So I found myself just saying it on time, and quickly realized that was rap, and swept it under the rug and didn't want anything to do with it because I thought that was illegal to do. And my younger brother, Zach, actually was kind of the guy he was one of the only people who knew that I was, kind of experimenting with that or kind of honing that craft, because I really did like to deliver in that way. And I remember one of my first shows, he asked, "Hey, are you going to be doing any of that rapping?" And I looked at him like he was nuts and said, "No, of course not. That's hidden. I don't do that." He's like, "Well, let me know when you decide to rap at your shows and maybe I'll come out." And I was like, "Oh gosh." So then, ever since then, I've been rapping at every show in some sense. And when you have a lot to say, it's one of the easiest genres to be in when you have a lot that you want to get out. So I don't claim to have street cred or anything like that. A lot of times when you hear rap, it's very diluted, or it's got a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth when they hear the word rap and that style of music. So we try to challenge that stereotype and try to make it thoughtful and mean something at the same time. So, and I think some people enjoy it. I like it.
I like it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, high five. Best friends.
Can you put some reverb on that? Post-edit?
Yeah. It's a very resounding clap, like a thunder.
Yeah.
It's because we met in prison.
Right.
Exactly.
That's one of the first things we learned.
Now, you guys are promoting your new album, Regional at Best, with your current tour. It's the Look Out Below tour. What have been some of the highlights of this tour?
Highlights. Yeah, there's always highlights.
Yeah, I think I think for us, highlights are more kind of just strange and awkward moments. So there's in one night particular, we played. It was kind of just actually it was supposed to be an off night, but we ended up kind of finding a show in Louisiana, and I think as a result of just throwing it together, and there was no promoting or anything, there ended up maybe being 10 people there. And something for us, like Tyler already hit on, is that we personally like to. I've always said ever since I started playing drums that I'll play the same for 10 people as I will for 10,000 people. So it's kind of funny because we're just going nuts for 10 people, and there's they're all just sitting at the bar.
Yeah,
like their backs are turned to us.
It's not even 10 engaged people. They're 10 people turned around in their drink.
They just happen to be there to drink alcohol. we just happen to be there playing music. So it was just that was a funny experience, and we're just kind of like going nuts for nobody who cares. And we get out of there, and it's kind of like we played late, so then all the bars are like closing and people are leaving, and everybody's just kind of like drunk out of their minds, and all of a sudden we're loading up our gear, and we hear across the street there's like 6 girls just yelling and screaming. It turns out that there was like this huge fight that these girls were having.
It was a girl fight.
Yeah, it was a girl fight.
So when you think highlight of a tour, obviously the first thing we're going to think of is a girl fight.
It's a girl fight. So that's, I mean, because like we're hearing like bottles being smashed, and all of a sudden like we walk over, and the other band that we're traveling with, Farewell Fighter, bass player, rips his shirt off and runs in between these girls fighting.
Yeah, and they
do your impersonation of the girl.
They're like, "What are you doing? Put your shirt back on. This is a girl fight." So, I mean, I'll never forget that, seeing him flash out of nowhere with his shirt off, trying to break up a girl fight, and it's just those are things that you'll always remember. And in that show where no one was watching, Josh actually did a backflip off of a table, and it just goes to show. We're going to put everything into every show. It doesn't matter who it's in front of. And ultimately, hopefully, it'll all pay off, and we'll be able to look back and be like, hey, remember that girl fight town?
Yeah.
So
very cool. If there's one thing that you guys have learned, making this new album, Regional at Best, and your previous album, and touring, and building a band from the ground up, what's like the most important thing you've learned? Is there something that's like been the most rewarding as a musician?
Yeah, I think I came on a little bit late, but I feel that I feel more ownership over this than I have in any other band or project that I've been a part of, and so I would even say recently we played in our hometown. I think it was like a month ago, at a place called the Newport, and it's fairly large venue, and it actually sold out like to capacity of people. That in itself was, I think, it was an awesome feeling. But not only that, but I think what was cool, I think, for Tyler and I, is that like kind of playing these songs and looking out and just realizing that just everybody that we looked at was singing the words along, which is I just think it's such a cool feeling for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's just you'll never forget when someone, you show up in Louisiana, and I've never been to Louisiana, and you show up and there's, a handful of kids singing the words back at you. As someone who is, kind of doing this whole tour travel thing for the first time, you start to really realize the power and the capabilities of the internet and of how easy it is for people to get a hold of music. And that is one of the coolest things, that someone I don't know knows the song. I'm used to, my little brother being the only one who knows any song that I've ever done. And it's grown from people that I don't even have a relationship with, that have a relationship with the music. And that's when you start realizing that it's bigger than you as a person, and you're representing an entity as a band. And so that's the coolest feeling.
And I believe that's about all the time we have left. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and talking to us.
Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
And 21 Pilots, their brand new album, Regional at Best, in stores right now. And let's get back into the music right here on 91.3 FM, Real College Radio.